This is NBA Talk. I'm Erik Torenberg, joined by special guest Dan Barto, Head of Player Development at IMG Academy, along with my co-hosts Reuben Torenberg and Frack. Let's dive in.
Looking good.
Right back at you. It's in my Jordan shirt.
Yeah, perfect. How we doing?
I'm great, man. Always feeling good on Fridays. How are you doing?
Doing great. Pumped to get into some hoops.
Yes, sir. We had quite a game last night, dude.
Oh my God.
Team USA.
Dan, how we doing?
What's up, Dan?
Fantastic. 1 week of camp left. Sign up now.
Excellent. Speaking of Reuben, you were just saying USA. Let's first start with the Olympics. What are reflections from watching the USA team? I haven't seen all the games. I just have to say I'm surprised that the games are this close. You know, the South Sudan game, was very scary. The Serbia game was very scary. Do we have the right players on the floor? I guess what are your guys' reflections watching the Olympics?
Dan, you want to go first or me?
Go ahead, Reuben. You probably watched more than I did.
Oh yeah, I've been locked in. I would say, I guess, first to respond point by point, I'm less worried about the games that were close. The South Sudan game was they couldn't miss. Both South Sudan and Serbia played their absolute best. And the South Sudan game was an exhibition. They split the minutes equally. It wasn't like Kerr had a specific rotation that he was trying to find his rotation. And in the game against Serbia, I also think Serbia played an incredible game. And Curry he was incredible, played a fantastic game, but got really targeted on defense, and Serbia greatly took advantage. And also Jokic put up a pristine Jokic performance. I think they've been awesome. It's a delight to watch incredible players who always have the ball, play together, and try and find their roles. And some players you can clearly see are able to adapt to roles better than others, including wide role players. Drew Holiday and Derek White have both played pivotal roles and gotten a lot of playing time. The natural convo is going to go to Jason Tatum not getting any time in this last game. And, as the best player on the team that just won the finals, maybe he should have. But it's beautiful to watch Steph and LeBron and KD play down the stretch and LeBron turn into this magic. I mean, you've seen it before from him, but he's really embraced that magic style role, getting everyone involved, just kind of managing the game really well. And I thought I saw incredible performances from both Embiid, who played like the best 3 minutes of basketball I've ever seen him play in a really high stakes game at the end against Serbia, and LeBron, who, when it comes down to it, when it's nut crunching time, he gets it done. And the guy's about to be 40 years old, and it's insane. It's amazing. I've loved the Olympics. I think we got the right players on there. I don't think Jalen Brunson should have been on the team, Eric. But it's awesome. And I'm very excited for this game against France tomorrow.
I think the spirit of the Olympics is so awesome. You talked about the role recognition. I think when you see some of the success of some of these other organizations where the players have been playing together on the FIBA circuit and their national teams for some of them up to 15 years together, it's just fun to watch the emerging companies, to see emerging countries, more South Sudan emerging. You see Japan continuing to emerge, even though they weren't overly successful. They were more competitive than they ever been. South Sudan facing the financial hurdles, Japan facing the physicality and kind of challenges of matching up with the world elite, but coming out of a bracket that just struggles to get over the hump with FIBA Asia in general. And then, going into the preparation, like, this is where else do you have to live in a village and stay amongst your kids, but at the same, or stay amongst your teammates and coaches, but at the same time, probably have 25 family members that are there for the whole duration and balance it. And that's not just the American team. I mean, there's literally nothing like it from a preparation and a daily dominoes, let alone the coaching. These coaches, this is all they do for 4 years. This is their life, and their reputation and their from these especially nationalistic countries, their safety, and you see they're just prepared. I compare it to boxing a lot. Like, obviously, U.S. is the elite of the elite boxer, and these other teams are so good at counter punching. Like, they just counter punch and they immediately adjust. Whereas we're throwing all the stars together, and yeah, they know good basketball, but they just don't have the synergies and the ability to quickly adjust. So we eventually have to out talent and outrun. Now, luckily yesterday, they chased Steph all around the court for 2 quarters. They ran out of gas. We punched it into the paint all through the fourth quarter and got a ton of baskets in the paint, which made us able to set our defense and really key in on Jokic. But if you're Kerr, like, if you try something that's over the top, you end up in you can't counter that, or you throw off the realm. Like, he's playing true traditional centers. He's not really playing 4 forwards like he could if he threw the 4, Curry and LeBron and KD and Tatum and Anthony Davis out there. To me, that's probably the best lineup. But then what do you do if those guys get in foul trouble? Now your counterpunch is the other team has the advantage, where we held the cards till we needed to play them. And you can be critical of Kerr, for doing that, but I don't know what your real other options are that don't have a higher risk. And I don't know if he's comfortable with that. Meaning, if you look at how Golden State wins and you look at how coaches coach, like, you coach with what you're comfortable with. And so he started the small lineup again, and he stuck with it. And Curry, and you're like, okay, they're going to start missing threes. They're going to start missing threes. We're going to be fine. And then all of a sudden we're down 13 going into the fourth quarter. But luckily, Serbia started to run out of gas, and they did start to miss the shots. So I can't be critical of them, because the other solutions that people might provide actually provide much more risk. Now you're blowing the 13-point lead because of foul trouble. Now you have to go small, or you have to go extra big to squash a run, and that is just harder to adjust to.
Yeah.
What do you think, Erik?
Well, I'm going to offend you with this question, which is it possible LeBron James is a bit overrated at this at this point in his career? Hold on. Can you still hear me?
Yeah.
Well, as soon as I started talking about LeBron, I thought the Wi-Fi would just crash.
It kind of did. We heard you. I don't know if it warrants an answer.
Is it it's like, I watch him with the Lakers, and I see him sometimes, like, not play defense or kind of take dumb shots. And I wonder if he could just get away with it earlier in his career, because he's just so athletic and just so much better than everybody else. But as he's getting older, obviously he's still superhuman for his age, but he doesn't have the same athletic advantage that he used to have over the best players in the NBA in the world. And sometimes I'm like, wow, why are you nowhere on defense right now? Like, what does he have to become more disciplined in his old age? And I don't know if he should be playing as much as LeBron and Steph Curry were the best players in the world, 10 years ago. Are they still the best players in the world 10 years later? Like, do we not have a younger crop that is better than Steph Curry and LeBron? It's kind of surprising to me.
The question about our team, the American team, is probably more your question about is LeBron or Steph Curry. Like, I think what we discount is, like, literally every single one of the Serbian guards is like a point guard. They didn't translate to the NBA because of one thing or the other, but they all think and play the game like point guards and see the floor like point guards, including Jokic. Like, not just their big guards that are already there, but also, Bogdanovic and Misic play like point guards the whole time, but they're off the ball. And that's on both sides of the floor, offensively and defensively. And I don't think that not only are the guys a little bit older with Drew, Curry, and LeBron, so maybe they are a millisecond slower or they're a little bit upright in their stance because they don't have to defend all year. But I just don't think that they see 3 plays ahead as good as maybe the Serbian team does or the Germany team does. Now they can out athlete them and get out into the foot race and transition and make tough mid post moves and finish over top. But from a pure basketball purist standpoint, I mean, not only are they a little bit a step slow, but we have to appreciate the high processing of these international players, even though they aren't NBA superstars right now.
I totally agree with that. I think it just is interesting to just reflect on like why is there not a new crop of players that is better than the old crop? And one answer is just that they themselves are international players. It's Wemby, it's Luka, it's Shai, right? They just aren't on the U.S. If those 3 players were on the U.S., they would be starting probably. But
and I think that's the Tatum thing. I think this is just the Tatum hazing a little bit. I mean, KD's definitely probably not going to LA. LeBron may be there, but he definitely won't be even the LeBron of today. Drew Holiday is probably not in LA. So it's good. It could be Tatum's team, maybe Tatum and Brown's team. We don't know. When we get to so there is an aspect of that gamesmanship and hazing that exists in kind of all levels. But if you say Jason Tatum is the best player in the world based upon how he performed in the highest stage of this past year, and you put him on the floor instead of LeBron, KD, or Curry, and things go wrong, now that is a national crisis.
Yeah. Reuben, any closing thoughts on this? Otherwise, I want to go back to the NBA teams.
I think the question you should be asking yourself is, after you watch LeBron in the Olympics, how the heck is this guy still a top 5 player in the whole world 20 years later? I think you should ask yourself the exact opposite question that you asked yourself.
That probably goes for a lot of things in life.
And in 48 hours, we could be having a completely different conversation. I mean, if
Also,
France is competitive with us and Wemby scores 28 points and we barely hang on, I mean, the Boo Birds are going to be around for the next 3 years. Like we are going to be, Macron's going to be the leader of everything.
Oh, it's going to be a good game. It's going to be a good game for sure. But I also think it's worth noting that LeBron took on the defensive assignment of guarding Jokic the entire fourth quarter. Just worth noting, 39-year-old who doesn't play defense.
LeBron's the GOAT. He's amazing. I'm not going to dispute it.
Yeah, he's the best player to ever live. The slander, it's laughable.
I just wanted to throw this out there. Like we had the basketball strategy class that I teach for the camp, and it was at the beginning of the game, and it's kind of scary to see the LeBron hate from these 10 to 15-year-olds. You know what I mean? Like Durant didn't start, and like they're rooting for Curry like there's no tomorrow, and they're even like yelling, get Derek White in there. Like there is an anti-LeBron movement amongst 10 to 15-year-olds. Like I have to like yell at them.
How do you explain
They
it?
listen to Erik.
Huh?
Where does the hatred come from? No,
Erik is
the
algorithm to basketball Twitter for 10 to 15-year-olds.
Yeah, it's fascinating. I mean, Reuben, do you concede that sometimes he just doesn't play defense and maybe jacks up some shots a little bit last minute and trades some good players from the Lakers to other teams?
Okay, I'll take that one at a time. I'll concede that he doesn't play defense in periods where it doesn't matter during the regular season because he's 40.
Even in the playoffs.
No, not in the playoffs. No, he actually guarded Jokic and was amazing in that series.
Why did Jamal Murray beat LeBron James?
Because LeBron wasn't guarding him, obviously. He was guarding Jokic. That's why Jokic didn't shoot. It wasn't LeBron's fault they lost that series. He was unbelievable. And it's just beautiful. The second part of it, the trades, he's made some bad trades, man. That Russell Westbrook trade, Kuzma and KCP for Westbrook, that was the one that really killed them. And then your third question?
It kind of jacks up shots.
Dude, when you have the ball at the end of the shot clock because you're the best player, sometimes you jack up shots. You could say the same thing about Steph Curry, Anthony Edwards. Who do you think is good? Luka Doncic, Shea. They all jack up shots. Luka jacks up the craziest shots.
They move faster in the offense. LeBron waits the last second, dribble back.
Nah. I don't.
What do you got? What is your prediction for the final?
I think that the U.S. is going to win, but a very close one.
Yeah, same.
This dude Cormier, all these international teams are amazing. I think that's what you're discounting. And they played together forever and just like have amazing chemistry. This guy Yabusele, he was on the Celtics.
Amazing. Yeah,
he's amazing. The dancing bear, he's amazing. And Cormier,
Evan Fournier. I mean,
no, Cormier.
No, I'm not kidding. But
Fournier's all right. Fournier's all right. But this dude Cormier is the real deal. Like, how is he not in the NBA? He's amazing. It's gonna be a great game. I'm so excited for it. Olympics are so exciting.
Yeah, that's great. Let's get back to the NBA. We finished on the Sixers. We got 6 teams left, and then I want to do some predictions if we had to make predictions now for standings. I'll go first to give you guys some time to think. But first, let's talk about the Suns. I'll give them a B+. I really like the Tyus Jones pickup. He's I don't know how they got him for $3 million. If I would have paid $10 million to get him. I think that's a great pickup. They needed a guard. They need some more depth. And now you're looking at Tyus Jones, Grayson Allen, Royce O'Neal. These are some good depth players. I still don't think they're above a 5 seed in the West. Kind of if they're lucky, they're going to need the Booker of old, the Booker of a couple of years ago to step back up. They're going to need a big year from Durant, and hopefully Beal's still got something in the tank. But I think it's a solid. I would have liked to see more. I'll go with the Kings in a bit. They did more, but not bad. What do you guys think about the Suns? Reuben, let's start with you.
Agree. Love the Tyus Jones pickup. I'd also give them a B. I just don't think that Nurkic is the right solution at center, and they could have used a little bit more depth at the bigs position or depth in defenders. I think they're going to have a bounce back season regardless. I'm a big proponent of Team USA is a really good thing for you and helps to advance you as a player, just seeing other greats and kind of how they play and almost like gaining knowledge by proximity. So I think with a season of playing together under their belts and kind of allowing them time to build chemistry because they're just 3 straight scorers who have to learn to play other roles. I think the Suns are going to be a top 4 team in the West and are going to be one of the best teams in the league.
I love the, better by just being together longer kind of thought of that. I'm going to give them an A-, and went back to one of our conversations before when we were kind of jonesing on Grayson Allen, and then I looked back at like some of his stats, and I was like, man, this guy really was killing it all year long, not to mention the psychological and defensive things that he brings to the table. So I'm not saying that they would have advanced this past year with just him, but they addressed the point guard situation. Even the addition of Monte Morris, along with Tyus Jones, just makes them better. And with the new coaches,
Budenholzer.
Coach Bud.
But Bud's been through it before, and if you've watched them, like they just can't take the long twos. Like they just have to mature and be like, okay, he missed one, I can't miss one. We took 5 in the second quarter. We're down 5. Let's limit it and take some more threes. And then that, the way that you counterbalance what Nurkic is missing is that you take more threes, you open up more space for guys to get all the way to the rim, you post up Beal and KD more, and you let Nurkic fly around the perimeter and set flare screens and do dribble handoffs so that he only has to run free throw line to free throw line, that he doesn't have to run rim to rim. And then, again, I think if they're probably, a piece away on their front line from being in the top 3 consideration. But I think that they could also be a team that's 30-7 to start the year.
Let's go to Portland. Reuben, why don't you start with Portland?
Our off season?
Yeah. I'm coming in with like a D, so.
Can you come back to me?
Yeah, sure.
I want to take a second to gather my thoughts.
Well, yeah, Dan, why don't you give them?
You go through Reuben, when you go, make sure you go through their personnel, because I don't have all their moves laid out, but
let's look at there.
The big move is Denny. Denny's the big move. We got Klingon.
Yeah, I mean, they've improved. Their young guys are going to continue to be there. Anthony and Jeremy, are formidable scoring punches, and I think Scoot is, moving towards being a starting point guard, and so I think at those 3 positions they're pretty strong. And I think they've improved. I think Chauncey same way, like just another year with a coach and a trust. I think the players like him, the GM. I think there's some synergies there. They're not going to be the Indiana Pacers. But I do think they will be way better than their under total for games, and I think they'll be exciting for their crowd. And I think that they will be the same way. They'll be like Indiana, where you don't want to go to Portland because it's a game you're supposed to win, but they're gonna take a lot of people's frustrations and a lot of their own, like, hey, let's play with a chip on our shoulder and prove the world wrong. And again, look, I mean, you can say what you want to say, but they have 2 frontline players now with Klingon and Ayton that protect the rim, and
Robert Williams coming back,
if they can make some shots, they're going to be pretty good defensively because they are long and athletic and young and hungry, and that gives you something for the first 65 games. Like, these older teams with coaches that are, running too many plays and overthinking things, I don't think Chauncey will do that. So I'm going to go with a B- because I think that they could have upgraded, but they chose to stay young, and it looks like they'll probably try to extend all of these guys that are there. And people talk about Grant being traded. It makes sense, but I think it would actually be an upgrade trade when they do make it.
Is Grant their best player? Who's the best player on this team?
I mean, Simmons is a leading scorer.
Simons. Yeah.
IMG alumni, kind of.
Yeah. I mean, I will say, is there a team with a worse best player in the NBA? Maybe the Pistons, I guess Cade Cunningham or something. But like, this is the bottom. This is the worst as it gets, right? This is the Wizards, maybe Kuzma. I don't know. But Kuzma's so I feel like they're in a tough position. Obviously, I think you probably trade Ayton, but if you can get anything for it, you probably just keep getting first picks and hope. They're probably where the Pistons were a few years ago. Unless you think that one of these guys, Simons, Henderson, Sharp, can turn into a star. Like, I wonder if Simons has peaked already. That's a a negative take, but I don't know. I struggle with this team. I don't love. Is Billups still coaching them?
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't get the best vibes. Go.
I mean, the thing, I've watched them a decent amount because I kind of wanted to see where Scoot went, because I love watching these guys from the G League Ignite. Like, I'm fascinated by the G League Ignite and the NBL guys from New Zealand, just because they are so much more NBA ready than the college guys. And I like him. I mean, Anthony, if you take the best combo guard or scoring guard from every team in the NBA, Anthony Simons is beating a lot of them in one-on-one, if not most of them. Now, I'm not saying that him being your point of him being the worst best player, but he could average 30 points a game this year. Like, that is legitimate.
Yeah, I think he was 25 last year.
So right.
Cam Thomas too.
Cam Thomas is good.
Yeah,
He's probably the worst best player.
Hold on. We can't go back to Cam Thomas, please. You saw this. You saw the Cam Thomas statistic, correct?
Which one?
He had in college and his whole time in the NBA, he has never been on the court with a plus 5-man unit.
Wow. Wow.
He's just not a winner in his DNA. I mean, that's funny, but he can score though.
he can get his own shot. I agree. But look, Klingen and Ayton in practice is going to be hilarious to watch too. By the way,
well, I would be surprised. I'd be willing to bet the Blazers don't win 30 games this season. I'd be willing to even take under on 25. Reuben, if you're tempted.
I would take that.
Right, let's do it. I think it is risky of me, but I would still do it just for the hate of the game.
$100.
Let's do 50. Let's do
75.
You've seen the Eastern Conference, right?
75.
Yeah, Eastern Conference is pretty bad.
75.
75 on 30 games. We'll do it.
75 on 25.
All right, you're not going to do 50 if you would do 75. Let's do 50.
No,
odds by Erik.
Yeah,
well, 20. Yeah, I'll do 75 just for the shock factor of and just to get you up on your bet losses over the years. All right, I'll take that.
Okay.
Let's probably go to the next team unless Reuben.
Hold on. Of course I have. I've been waiting. All right, I got a list of pros and a list of cons. My pros, I think that both Scoot Henderson and Shaedon Sharpe are taking a leap. Shaedon Sharpe actually played amazing last year until he had this pretty difficult abdomen injury and missed pretty much the remainder of the season. Wasn't the same again. He's an animal and he can fly. And he actually plays very tough D. Scoot had a really slow start, but started to heat up towards the end, had multiple 20-point double-doubles. And just like any young point guard, it takes a little bit longer to adjust because you are kind of managing the entire game. And it's just an adjustment going to the league. But to Dan's point, you do adjust. We found that NBL and G League players do adjust quicker for the most part. So I just think he's the real deal. And when you do see flashes, it's brilliant. So I think those are the guys, meaning the con. I think we should trade Simons. Like I think he's high value right now and he's amazing. I think he's awesome and he's so cash and it's just beautiful to watch him play. Like he's so saucy near the rim. But he just can't guard anyone and he doesn't fit with those two other guys. Other pros, I think Klingen is a great pick and he's going to be, I think he's just like Walker Kessler, but much better. And I think he's just huge and he's going to be able to protect the rim for us because Ayton clearly can't do that. And Rob Williams was hurt all year. Maybe Rob Williams will come back and be something. I'm not banking on it. And I don't think Ayton is the eventual guy, but I want to see what Ayton and Klingen looks like just because it's so much size. And Ayton, he's still young. And when we saw Ayton at his best, he was really, really good. Like at least he's shown that he can do it in the league. And I also think I like Jeremy Grant. I think he's a great player. I just don't think he makes that much sense with our timeline. And if we kept him and if we kept Simons, I think we'd be frisky. I think we'd win over 30 games. I just don't think the Blazers are going to do that. And I think they're going to trade him and try and just stack young pieces and take as many shots on goal as you can get with potential or players with high potential. So I'd give them an A- because I love the Denny pickup. And I think Denny is going to get a lot of minutes because they're going to trade Jeremy Grant. I like that they, I think Klingen's a really great pick. And I like that they didn't make any crazy moves trying to go for it just yet because it just gives them as many opportunities to do well with future players. And potentially, I don't want us to win that many games because I want us to get a shot at Cooper Flag.
So Simons and Rob Williams for Hachimura and Austin Reaves.
I like it for the Lakers, that's for sure. We want young pieces who have true potential. Like
Lillard should have got you 5 picks, man.
He did get us 5 picks.
Yeah,
they're just in the future.
Yeah.
We traded one of them for Avdia.
You could have got more for Lillard. We got Ayton and Robert Williams, which I just wouldn't have taken back. I just would have taken.
We also had Holiday, remember? And when we traded him, that was terrible. We should have kept him.
Ayton and Shaden Sharp for Julius.
No, we got to keep Shaden Sharp.
I can't take.
I would trade I think I would trade Ayton for Randall. I think Randall's better than Ayton.
I'll keep Randall. Thanks.
How about Simons and would you trade Simons and Ayton for Randall?
Me?
Eric.
I mean, again, I think that's a net.
I cut out Reuben. What was the trade?
Would you trade Ayton and Simons for Randall?
Maybe. Well, how about Simons and Grant?
I mean, I would do that. I would rather do that than
but they have Bridges and Hart and DiVincenzo.
Yeah, that wouldn't make sense. But it wouldn't make sense for the Knicks.
They do need a guy. They need some scoring.
But for the Knicks, Ayton and Simons for Randall is a no-brainer. I wouldn't do that if I was the Blazers.
Is Ayton redeemable? Or
yeah, Ayton's still a good player.
He's 25.
Yeah, he's 25.
But Roy Hibbert was young too. I mean,
the two are incomparable. Roy Hibbert was very large and just
centers kind of peter out early, and this guy's got Ben Simmons is young too. I mean.
Who said that centers peter out early?
Having watched the Blazers, if you were Ayton and you just ran back and forth and watched these guys take some of these shots that they took last year, you'd look confused too because you're just guessing all day what's going to happen.
Yeah, that's my problem with Simons too. He doesn't really get the other players involved, but he's cash and he's so slick with it. He's like Cam Thomas but better. I really think it's a great comp. I mean, he's not a winner, but he's good, and maybe as like a fourth or fifth man, spot up shooter.
I do like trading. I mean, it is interesting to reflect back. We'll go to the Kings in a second. Like that Halliburton for DeMontis trade was really interesting, right?
Worked out for both teams. I feel like that's a rarity.
Yeah.
I think that's where we're going. I think that's where it has to go now.
Yeah.
Maybe that'll happen for the Bulls. And Giddey will be good.
Giddey is going to be good. I promise you.
I like Giddey.
Let's go to the Kings. Dan, what do you give them?
I give them. I mean, their off season. They got better. I mean, look, they got better. So I'm going to say A-. It's just they didn't get better. They didn't get to you can't make Sabonis the third guy, right? So you have to kind of keep your hierarchy. They did that. With DeRozan coming in, kind of being the third guy, but also having that full wing position. They have probably maybe the best wing shooting in the West outside of, a good day for Phoenix. And it's, it's the same conversation as Phoenix. Like Sabonis is not the rim protector that gets you through 7-game series in the playoffs. So you have to try to score 140 points. And, the beam's going to go up a lot and they're going to be happy in Sacramento and they are going to score a ton of points and play with a pace and I think a little bit more flexibility now with DeRozan because if they need to throw the ball to somebody to get a bucket or get an ISO or they don't have to run sets, like they can literally clear a side for him. He still has one of the best 1-2 combo mid-range ability to separate that there is even at his age. So again, it's he's an above average defender still. So again, I think they got better. They did. They just didn't address the gorilla in the room, especially in the Western Conference. Like, what are you going to do with people at the rim?
Yeah. Reuben?
I'd give them B-. I similarly think they got better, and I love DeRozan, and I think just like his general energy will be a good change for their whole unit because continuity is great, but sometimes it can get stale when you don't win, as shown by as evidenced by the Clippers Lob City. And so in net, I think they got better. I similarly just don't think that like they got defensively better enough, and it's still going to be their weaknesses still remain their weaknesses, which is kind of guarding the ball one-on-one and stopping the ball at the rim. So I think they're a playoff team. I think they're going to be super exciting and a really fun team to watch. And what I'm looking out for mainly is to see if Keegan Murray takes another leap. I think he's got one or two more in him. I think he's an awesome player who isn't talked about enough. And if he can, then who knows? You know, maybe a couple other teams have injuries and they're in the Western Conference semifinals. But my guess is, you know, I think the top of the West is just a little bit too talented for them.
I'll give him an A-. I really like the pickup. I think as Dan alluded to, they've got incredible depth on the guards and you know, with you know, not just Fox and DeRozan, but also Monk and Herter,
Keon Ellis.
They lost Davion Mitchell, huh? But yeah, still they got a good amount of guards. I would like to see them pick up another piece off the bench on the front court. I think they lack some front court depth. They're really relying on Trey Lyles to pick up both of the 4 and the 5, it seems, or Alex Len. It seems like a weakness, but I think they're a contender, especially if you mentioned Chris, but I think if Fox can take another leap and be a truly elite leader on this team. But I think they had a tough time in clutch time, it seemed, not having like that go-to scorer, and hopefully DeRozan solves that for him. So I like it a lot.
You don't think Fox is elite already?
I think he's elite, but not quite Jalen Brunson level. Like I don't see him leading his team to the NBA Finals. You know,
Jalen Brunson hasn't done that yet, right?
No. But I do see Brunson doing it.
But I think I don't know if that's because of Sabonis. Like if Fox is on the Knicks with the type of spacing that the Knicks play with, and the bigs a lot lower, without Sabonis having to be at the elbows and having to be, you know, involved in so much stuff to keep him happy. And I'm not saying he wouldn't play any style, but like if you just cleared more space for him like Brunson has, would he have that same level? I mean, I could see him putting up the same numbers.
I mean, Knicks have Mitch Robinson and you know, we have our own spacing, and Josh Hart, you know, we have our own spacing issues. You know, teams that oriented their whole defense against Brunson. I don't think Fox is as pure of a scorer, but maybe I'm wrong, and I'd love to see him. I guess I saw a few times the Kings down the stretch, you know, particularly against the Knicks, and I my feeling was, hey, you don't have a guaranteed scorer right now. You don't have a guaranteed, like you mentioned that they have to run a set every time. Where the Knicks just like give it to Brunson or even give it to Randall, just like and get out of the way. And
I think in their case though, Eric, and I agree with you, but I think again that's why you can't say that they're going to be a contender, because they don't have
DeRozan.
Like if they had Mitchell Robinson setting the screen instead of Sabonis or instead of Len, it might be different for Fox. Like their front line really limits what they can. I mean, obviously Sabonis is like probably the best short role player in the game, but he's not out there taking guys' heads off and then running in the next possession and deep posting to keep pressure on the defense. So I think, like you said, like it'd be interesting. Do they make a move for Robinson? Do they try to get Capella? Like who's?
Yeah, I think Capella would be great.
Do they try to reinvent somebody that's older that we're not thinking about? Do they sign Steven Adams? Does Steven Adams come back
I was thinking the same
halfway
thing.
through the year? Like, and like those are the types of things that they would need. Where I'd say, okay, I wouldn't want to play them in the first round, but until they do that, they're probably in the playoffs and then out.
Yeah, let's go to the Spurs. I think also A-. I really love the Chris Paul pickup. I love the Harrison Barnes pickup. I think they're, going to win 35 to 43 games this season. But that does factor in Wemby taking a big step up, it's still an incomplete team on a bunch of different levels. But that's my rating. Reuben, what do you say?
A plus. I think this is a playoff team. I love the pickups. I think they're deep. I think they're talented. And I think that Wemby's going to take a huge leap.
I agree with both of you. I'm going to be a little contrarian. I think the Spurs might be in the facet of their organizational approach that they're overdoing everything, including their offseason acquisitions.
Say more.
Including their coaching. Like they are the whatever. They're the pinnacle of analytics. They're the pinnacle of trade making. They have the pinnacle of coaching. They have the pinnacle of player development. They have the pinnacle of small market. And in every sport that happens in, it just kind of lasts. They run it back too many times with too many one additional move. Like Chris Paul is the additional big move that's going to get them into the playoffs. And again, I don't know. I would foresee, if you told me that Darvin Ham was going to coach them next year, I would be more likely to say that they will advance further than with Greg Popovich coaching them. Not because Pop isn't an all-timer, isn't one of the smartest coaches in the world ever, but is that what they need right now? Do they need that with this group, with Chris Paul? Or will Pop just, hey, Chris, help me out here. You got it. Let's make it work. That doesn't seem to be his personality. It seems to be the Spurs way. You know what I'm saying? We saw it with Nick Saban, the Nick Saban way, the Yankee way, the Steelers way. I'm a Steeler fan, so now I've gone through this for how many years, and we just spend all week waiting for this guy from the 49ers to come to Pittsburgh, and it ain't going to happen anyways. Ayuk. But there's just every time I hear the word Spurs, that's what I think. So their acquisitions by their front office, A plus, right? Based upon where their weaknesses were and the fact they want to get back in the playoffs. However, I don't know if it aligns with people being happy and success and the fans being happy and Pop being happy and them getting to the semifinals. If that's even the goal. What is the goal? You sign Chris Paul, clearly the goal is we want to try to compete in the West, right? Or was Chris Paul just to make the playoffs? Well, if you're just signing Chris Paul to make the playoffs, is that the Spurs way? So I don't know if that totally is overthought, but I just don't see enough of a direction with Pop still being there, and I don't know who's controlling the ship.
Yeah, that's really interesting. Let's segue to the Raptors. I'm utterly confused at this Raptors roster. I do love Quickly, but is he really worth 180 million or more, whatever they paid for him? I've told you what I think about Barrett, that I think he's a scorer, or kind of like Kyle Kuzma, but not a winner. I think Barnes is a great player, but not when he's your best player. I think he's a OG, kind of like a number 3 kind of guy, or a great defensive player. I don't see him becoming like a 25, 30-point scorer. So I don't know what they're doing. My thing, I don't see them competing for the playoffs in any material way, but I also don't see them kind of acknowledging that they should be, going for a Cooper flag. And I don't see that many young, exciting players on this roster. I think they should be trading these guys for picks. Is basically not Barnes, keep Barnes, maybe keep Quickly, but I'd trade Barrett, Poto. How many players can you get picks for? And let's run the Thunder playbook. I mean, not to sound like a broken record, and I know there are other factors at play here, but So I give them the C. I guess. What are you guys seeing from the Raptors / think they should be doing?
Yeah, I'm disappointed too. I think that what 2 years ago, 3 years ago, they're the staple, right? Like they had everything figured out, front office, the way they drafted, player development, unsung coach Nick Nurse leading them to greatness, tough guys, Lowry, Fred VanVleet, and then boom, like all gone, like everybody's gone. I talked to a front office person this week, and they're like, what they did with Quickly, like threw off the whole offseason market. That's what tanked the point guard market. Was everybody ended up spending way more money at the shooting guard position because of what the Raptors gave Quickly so early into the process, which I thought was interesting. But I see I mentioned it with I don't see who's leading this. Who's leading this? Like, unknown coach goes into his second year. You would think that he would have more impact with the guys, but they basically mailed it in at the trade deadline when they got rid of Schroeder and got rid of OG and Pascal. And then you still probably could have made the playoffs if you just hang on to, Dinwiddie and you compete, you get a play-in game, and they cut Dinwiddie and let him walk. And then you basically make your offseason about Emmanuel Quickly. Like, look, the Masai's going to be there. He's the GM. He's the president. He's got like an untouchable contract. But man, if you're a fan, like, they could be in for some brown bag on the head type of stuff.
I'll give him a C- as well. I didn't like that Quickly signing. I think he's a good player, but I don't think he's like the guy kind of thing. I like Barnes more than you do, Eric. I definitely think he's a 1, and I think every season he gets so much better, and I think he's going to be a fantastic player, like top 20 player in the league kind of player. But I similarly don't really see this team as constructed making the playoffs or going very far. So in my classic big bro fashion, I think they should just blow it up, trade every player besides Barnes for as many picks as you can get. Maybe keep Grady Dick. There's a couple of young guys I like. I like Barrett more than you do, Eric. Trade Bruce Brown. Trade Podol. Try and get as many young guys and tank for Cooper Flagg or VJ Edgecombe or someone really good in the draft.
It's worth just reflecting, like, Jazz got 6 picks for Gobert. Nets got 6 picks for Bridges. The Thunder got God knows how many picks for the trades that they did. Like, I think like 13 or some crazy amount of picks over a series of trades.
Over a bunch of trades. So it wasn't 6 picks per trade. Those don't apply. And the 2 trades you just said are like the 2 that have kind of set the market.
Yeah, well, I'm just saying, Siakam only got traded for 3 picks. And like, timing matters. The Bulls got nothing for their trades, basically. They had a big 3 and or big 4 with Lonzo, right? They got nothing. Raptors, they didn't get much. They traded Siakam and OG, and they lost Kawhi, of course. They lost Lowry. They lost VanVleet. Like, for those 5 players, they got 3 picks
and players.
And I think that's that's the small market thing, especially the Canadian deal too. Like, did their run? They manipulated everything there was with the draft and the salary cap, and then they just kind of extending their run put them into the hole. And he just tried to extend competitiveness for 1 more year, thinking there'd be the right deals out there. And now it's kind of forced their hand. So unless you steal somebody in a trade with some picks, like, you literally probably do have to tank it, because it seems to me he probably tried to keep some agents and some GM friends happy with some of these moves, because you just can't convince people to come to Toronto. Like, you're not going to sign free agents, or you're not going to outbid people. And that's why VanVleet left. That's why Lowry left. That's why these guys left, because it's not that they want out, but it's too hard. I just they need to draft another superstar within the next 2 years now that Barnes is tied up, and they need to pray. I mean, you probably need to run every play to quickly to make that look good, and I just don't think they have the coach that cares about that stuff.
Yeah. We'll see if quickly can take a step up. His numbers on the Knicks were really great in terms of his plus minus, and but it's different when you're playing against bench players. It's supposed to being the man, the Brunson of your team. We'll see. But yeah, I'd be surprised if Raptors win 25 games too. I mean, but let's go to Utah.
It's our last team.
With two more teams, Utah and Wizards. With Utah, what I don't know about is should they have traded Laurie, or should they trade Laurie? Like, if you're Utah, what are you doing right now? Like, what's the strategy? You just keep getting picks. They're not losing enough to get the best picks, so they're kind of like winning 30 games every year and getting the 8th, 10th pick or whatever. And is that enough? What do you guys think, Dan? What's your take?
Well, the owner is a tech guy, has a zillion dollars. He wants to do both. He wants to be really good right away. He wants to out negotiate everybody. He wants to have the most technologically advanced stadium to watch games. He bought a hockey team. Like, he's just, I don't want to use the word over the top because he's brilliant, but I don't know what the direction is with what they're trying to do. I will say in my research on Larry Malkinen's contract, his agent deserves agent of the decade, maybe, for where these dates fell and for where the negotiation leverage was, and where things fell along the extension, because they had to extend him before they could trade him because nobody would be able to trade for him then extend him. And then he ended up getting near max, took a little bit less on years 4 and 5 or 3 and 4, but guaranteed with a no trade for the whole year. So he's untradeable. So he's there. So he's going to put up big numbers again. And that, the guy deserves, did a really good job for his client to maximize not only getting more money this year, but getting, money that people didn't think that he deserved, a la Emmanuel Quickly. And, the Jazz have the pick. So I'm guessing that they, again, I'm giving them a C plus, but I'm guessing that they use some of the picks to acquire somebody else that is on an expiring contract to try to at least get a series in the playoffs. If I'm the owner, I'm happy with being in the regular playoffs next year. That's my goal, and if I have to give up the picks, I will do that. Who it is, I don't know what piece is going to help them the most or how they do it, but I think that would have to be that's a everybody wins goal. That drives more season ticket holders, makes it look like you're trying to be competitive, and in that area, just like we've talked about with Portland and Toronto and Detroit and even San Antonio, like when you're in those types of markets, that's important. Like, if you might not really be trying, but you need to look like you're trying because your fan base will just turn on you so bad.
Yeah. Reuben, any additions?
I would give them a C. I think if I were the GM, I would have traded Lowry and just gone full tank mode to try and get Cooper Flag and take one more crack at the apple in a really good upcoming draft. Because they did not, I think that they are going to be frisky again. And I'm glad that they didn't over upset the apple cart and trade a lot of these young dudes, because I think a lot of them have really good potential. Besides Markkanen, I think Keontae George is going to be a really good player. I like the Cody Williams pick. I like the Collier pick. I think Taylor Hendricks is going to be pretty good. Maybe they'll trade Collins. He's kind of just another big that doesn't really fit with the other players. Kessler hopefully, takes a leap back because he kind of took a step back last year. But they're deeper than you would think. Taylor Norton Tucker's pretty good. Colin Sexton's still on the team. They still have Clarkson. If these guys play, they're going to win some games.
That's a problem.
Yeah, I mean that team right there is an Eastern Conference
Playoff team.
team. Right?
Yeah. Yeah. They may not make the playoffs in the West, but they'll definitely beat a lot of teams. And yeah, because so I agree with Dan. I think they're going to win a bunch of games, and maybe one of their other picks will blow up, and they'll get to take advantage of this year's draft because they do have more than just their own pick in this draft. But then I think they kind of threw away their shot at flag. And keep in mind, like there's a shitload of teams who are in the Tankapalooza. Like just because you're in it doesn't mean you'll win it.
If you're the Warriors, do you apparently Kuminga's looking for $224 million or like basically like what do you do with Kuminga? And it's a broader question of like what do you do with these players who want more money than they're worth, right?
Kuminga's worth it.
You think he's worth $224 million?
Oh yeah.
I think it's like John Collins. Like John Collins is overpaid. Like nobody wants him for his salary, but he's just going to want to max out. Like these people are destined to be on losing teams.
Well, I wouldn't compare the two players. Collins is overpaid. It doesn't
4 years ago, was looking pretty good, right?
He was pretty good, but Kuminga is very good. And he's done it.
I think if you really look at the numbers, like every week we get to have this conversation because next week it's going to be somebody else and his is going to be 240 million. And then next summer it's going to be 320 million. And just with the way the NBA has money coming in, the salary cap goes up 10% every year. I think the max contracts are 8% inclining, non-compounding. So teams actually end up with more money over time. So they're just going to give it away. Like, I don't know who can moneyball any of this, you have to take, and we'll use the two examples. You have to, if you're the Warriors, you have to be like, we will let Kuminga go into restricted free agency. Our offer is 150. He wants 225. 150. Okay, we're not there. He demands a trade. We sit, we argue. He goes into restricted free agency. Somebody offers him 180. He takes it. We match. Like that's where probably the future of these negotiations go. Is it's going to force more people into unhappy, restricted free agency, holdouts, pouting, fake injuries, because on paper, besides Reuben thinking he's worth $224 million, clearly the agent has a 50-page presentation of why he's worth $224 million to the Warriors, who are going to lose Draymond, who kind of missed maybe on Moses Moody, who are getting older, who are going to either have to go into tank mode or re-sign the guys that they use these picks on. And nobody wants to trade ahead of time for somebody that wants to be extended. Just like people keep talking about Brandon Ingram, or Lauri Markkanen. Like people don't want to trade for a guy that has unrealistic extension because you lose all the leverage of the trade. Because now you become the bad guy. You rent him for however many games the rest of the season is, or to sell some tickets, and then now you're in a standoff with them for who knows how long. And again, I'm just saying, I'm using the same thing. Like the beauty of what happened with Lauri Markkanen is he had a small agent that was just working for him. I love that. Aaron Turner, who's the agent for Kuminga, this is his biggest deal ever. So he's going to go all in for Kuminga. Scoot Henderson just fired his agent to go with Rich Paul, to try to up his brand and go with LeBron's people. I don't know who his first agent was, but I'm just saying, like when you put on all those different hats, it makes everything make a little bit more sense. Because if you're an organization, you don't want what these football teams are going through, right? You don't want the 49ers situation with Ayuk, right? Like that's not good for anybody.
Yeah, that makes sense. Let's do our last and final team. Let's do the Wizards. I have no idea what the Wizards are doing. Are they the worst run NBA team in the last decade? I guess maybe the Nets. There's, their starting lineup does not, inspire confidence in me. I guess they're going for flag. I don't even know what, but I don't really know how to think. I think the way to crash is like you go like the Pistons, just like let's get all young players. Let's start playing them. See who's good. I guess with the Thunder, like let's see who's good, and then in a few years you got a core of people who played together. What I don't understand is why you would tank and play vets. It's kind of what the Knicks did in like the mid 2010s. Like we were tanking, but then we had like Marcus Morris at starting three, and like other players too. So I feel like getting Valanciunas, why? Brogdon, why? Like what's the point? Why not see what these younger guys can do? What do you guys think?
I'll go first. I agree. I think they're at the prime bottom of the Tankapalooza. I think it's the worst run team in basketball. If they're smart, I would try and lose every single game and just play the young dudes as much as possible. Alex Sarr, Koulibaly, Jordan Poole. I would have kept Avdia. Kuzma's obviously going to play. I'd probably trade Kuzma just to try and bottom out as much as you can and try and get more picks. But both of those moves were quite baffling, and I'm curious to see what they do this year.
It seems like the GM's just finished his first year, so he can't be completely to blame. They've kind of slowly weeded everybody out of their front office, their scouting system, their player development system, and they brought in some pretty good guys. And the guy's name is Winger, who's the GM or president of basketball operation. Unbelievably thorough, unbelievably flying around the country evaluating like one of the more thorough workers that I've seen. But again, coming from the Clippers, like I don't know if he's copying anything that he's done there, if he has this, but it seems to me a little bit baseballish. Like you sign these guys, you use your money, and then you're going to try to steal not just picks, but you're going to try to steal 2 or 3 young guys in these trades. Get rid of Brogdon. Obviously, Valanciunas will be traded at the trade deadline. Kuzma will be traded at the trade deadline, or it comes off the books, and you try to hit one of the 3 guys that you've acquired. Does that make sense? So as you do these baseball-like trades where you're trading a star for 3 players or 2 players and a pick, you're hoping that one of those 2 players doesn't turn into a star, but turns into a role player. And then in 2020, the summer of 2027, you're sitting on 4 returning players that have been extended. You're sitting on 5 players that you've put on 4-year contracts that are overachieving. And now you go out and you get 2 stars. That's the only way that I could see what they're doing, or even maybe what Portland is doing, because people aren't lined, or Toronto, they're moving to a baseball model a little bit where it's like, okay, like we're trying to time everything around 2028. So they're not going to follow Oklahoma City rebuild. They're not going to follow, true tanking. They're not going to follow, re-sign the guys that we drafted. But there's going to be this new wave that people just haven't thought about, where you secure the low end of your roster with long 4-year deals. You secure some pretty good draft picks that are moving into potentially be star players at max contracts. But if not, if it doesn't look like they're going to be the stars, then you can go out and be like, okay, we can offer the max. We can offer the max with a player option for 4 years as we go into what I talked about with the restricted type of contracts. So they can go out and offer people on restricted contracts and overpay them, or as people come off a restricted and they become true free agents. And I think this is where we're going in 26, 27, 28, 29. Then you can, then people be like, well, that's too much money to say no to. Because they have the money. I mean, they're not a cheap franchise.
Right.
Well,
and Washington Wizards, Bub Carrington, trained at IMG, Pitt, unbelievable, shot up the draft charts, then overachieved in Summer League.
He looks good.
And his counterpart, the guy that played better than him, the only rookie that played better than him, Reed Shepherd's here this week as well.
Oh, amazing.
So so it's good. But I mean, Bub is Bub is probably a superstar. I mean, I'd be shocked if he didn't become a near max player for them.
That's great.
Yeah, high bar.
Yeah, just on that note, we'll wrap in a second, but I do love the Rockets both for their young players and for their vets, the Steven Adams, the Jeff Green, Dylan Brooks. I think
Dylan Brooks, bad showing in the Olympics, Eric. What happened?
That's true.
Your
That's
boy.
True. Well, I care about the NBA season.
He lived in Houston for a whole year. He was injured living in Houston for a whole year. That's not good for anybody's mental health.
Totally. Well, let's wrap on this. We'll do another episode where we get into predictions for the standings on the Eastern and Western Conference. This was great reviewing the offseason trades, and gents, always a pleasure. Until next time.
Thank you.
Let's go USA.
Yes, Let's go. Big game tomorrow, boys.
Have a great week.
You too.
Take care, guys. Have a good week.